Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are going to unravel a truly fascinating mystery that's been hiding right there in the pages of ancient history. We're looking at how a 600-year-old biblical prophecy literally inspired a Jewish high priest to go rogue and build a temple right in the middle of ancient Egypt. It's an incredible story full of political maneuvering, fierce theological debates, and honestly, a pretty radical vision for the future of the world. So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the prophecy of 5 cities. Then look at justifying the Egyptian altar, building the Onias temple, setting up the Pillar of Witness, the debate over the true temple, and finally, wrap up with the Grand Triple Alliance. Let's get into it. Section 1. Prophecy of 5 Cities, an anomaly in Egypt. To really understand this anomaly, we have to go straight to the source material. If you look at Isaiah chapter 19, verse 18, it predicts something totally unexpected. That the language of Canaan, which of course means Hebrew, would actually become the everyday speech of worshippers living in Egyptian cities. It explicitly says they will swear to the Lord of hosts, which implies a deep oath of allegiance and obedience. But it leaves us with this cryptic clue. One of these cities shall be called the City of Destruction. Now, what's really interesting here is that the key to this whole mystery lies in a rather complicated translation. You see, in the original Hebrew text, the word used is ir-aheres. If you translate that literally as destruction, it totally clashes with the really positive, hopeful tone of the rest of the prophecy. But scholars point out that the word can actually be explained by Haris, which is an Arabic epithet for the lion. So that completely shifts the translation to the city of the lion, which was known in Greek as Leontoplis. Keep that name in mind because it is absolutely crucial. Section 2. Justifying the Egyptian altar, a theological shockwave. Moving on to the very next verse, Isaiah chapter 19, verse 19, the prophecy gets even more explicit. It actually foretells a literal, physical altar to the Lord sitting right smack in the middle of the land of Egypt. Now, if you know anything about traditional Jewish law, the temple and the altar were strictly meant to be in Jerusalem, nowhere else. So suggesting an altar in Egypt, that was a massive, seismic theological shockwave. Let's put this into perspective and look at how this builds over the centuries. Isaiah recorded this prophecy way back around 700 BCE. Then, a lot of time passes. Alexander the Great conquers Egypt in 332 BCE, which suddenly opens the doors for large numbers of Jews to migrate and settle there. But it isn't until around 170 BCE, we're talking over 500 years after Isaiah wrote those words down, that a Jewish high priest named Onias decides to use this exact prophecy as a literal blueprint for action. So here's what happens. Onias had fled to Alexandria and wanted to build a memorial to himself. But to do that, he needed permission, he needed funding, and he needed real estate from the rulers of Egypt, King Ptolemy Philometor and Queen Cleopatra. So he pitches them this absolutely brilliant political maneuver. First, he points out, hey, a lot of people in Egypt are attending improper temples and it's causing social unrest. Second, he requests this very specific ruined temple in a place full of sacred animals named from the country Bubastis, or Diana. And then comes his absolute masterstroke. He cites Isaiah's 600-year-old prophecy to justify clearing this unclean site to build a replica of the Jerusalem temple. He promises it'll bring harmony to the Egyptian Jews and benefit the king and queen. And amazingly, Ptolemy and Cleopatra actually agree to it. They even acknowledged Isaiah's prophecy in their official reply. Section 3. Building the Onias Temple, a replica in Egypt. Now, according to the historian Josephus in his Antiquities of the Jews, Onias actually pulled this off. He took this dilapidated site in Leontopolis, which, fittingly enough, was built over the ruins of an Egyptian temple dedicated to the lion-headed goddess Bast, and he completely purged it. He built this rugged, fortress-like structure from huge stones, rising upwards of 60 cubits into the sky. While it was definitely patterned after the temple in Jerusalem, Josephus does note it was smaller and, well, poorer. But still, it was a towering, defiant stone monument rising above the Egyptian landscape. He even successfully ordained priests and Levites from their own stock to perform divine services right there in Egypt. Section 4. The Pillar of Witness, marking God's territory. But Onias wasn't done, because Isaiah chapter 19, verse 20 states that this pillar shall be for a sign and for a witness unto the Lord of hosts. Now, historically speaking, setting up pillars for religious purposes was strictly forbidden by the book of Deuteronomy, mostly because of its association with idolatry. But this was an exception. This wasn't just a metaphor. It was a massive, towering stone obelisk erected right at the border. It acted as a permanent, undeniable visual claim, literally marking the land of Egypt as Jehovah's territory. And this whole situation brilliantly illustrates how the deeper meaning of the prophecy, the idea that the Lord shall be known to Egypt, was remarkably fulfilled in real history. After Alexander the Great, the Jewish population in Egypt absolutely exploded, largely because they were favored by the Ptolemaic rulers. The historian Philo actually notes the population reached a staggering 100 myriads. To put that into perspective, that's 1 million people. Because they became so numerous, their Hebrew scriptures had to be translated into Greek, which gave us the famous Septuagint. The knowledge of the true God was literally blanketing Egypt, exactly as Isaiah had foretold.
Furthermore, the prophecy outlines the actual method of this transformation. Isaiah chapter 19, verses 21 and 22 reveals this really profound cycle. The Lord shall smite Egypt. He shall smite and heal it. It's this historical process where calamities and oppression aren't just meant for utter destruction. Instead, they serve as the very catalyst that leads the people to cry out for a savior. The smiting is what leads to their conversion, the healing of their nation, and ultimately the flourishing of true religion within their borders.
Section 5. Debating the True Temple, a Fierce Sedition. As you might imagine, building a rival temple didn't go over smoothly. While Anias was operating his temple down in Egypt, a fierce sedition broke out right before King Ptolemy himself in Alexandria. The Alexandrian Jews were passionately defending the ancient legitimacy of the Jerusalem temple. Their advocate, a guy named Andronicus, argued his case based on the unbroken succession of high priests and the honor bestowed by the kings of Asia. On the opposing side, advocates Sabaeus and Theodosius fiercely defended the Samaritan temple at Mount Gerizim. It was a high-stakes, literal life-or-death debate over which temple was actually built according to the laws of Moses. It really proves that the geographical center of worship was a deeply, deeply contested issue in the ancient world. Section 6. The Grand Triple Alliance, Eschatological Vision. Okay, now we are zooming way out. Just listen to this. In that day shall there be a highway out of Egypt to Assyria. Isaiah chapter 19, verse 23 expands our horizon dramatically. Historically, Palestine was this constant, bloody battlefield caught right between the two great warring empires of the ancient world. You had Egypt to the south and Assyria to the north. But this prophecy predicts a literal open highway connecting them, a road where Egyptians and Assyrians actually mingle and serve together in peace. Imagine that. And the vision gets even more incredible when we look at verse 24. It states, "In that day shall Israel be the third with Egypt and with Assyria, even a blessing in the midst of the land." So instead of being the victim constantly crushed between two superpowers, Israel joins this grand alliance as an equal third member. It's a tripartite, holy alliance, acting as a literal blessing to the entire world. But the absolutely crucial point here is how the final verse, Isaiah 19:25, redefines global identities entirely. God calls Egypt, the ancient slave master, my people. He calls Assyria, the brutal, ruthless conqueror, the work of my hands. And Israel retains its spiritual preeminence as mine inheritance. It takes three jarring religions, three totally hostile kingdoms, and seamlessly unites them into a single friendly worship of the true God. It is a complete and total inversion of historical animosity. So, as we wrap up this explainer, we are left staring at an incredible historical reality. A 600-year-old text was actually powerful enough to compel a high priest to clear ancient Egyptian ruins and build a rugged stone replica of the Jerusalem temple. It begs a really profound question. If these ancient words shaped the physical stones of history back then, will our modern geopolitical world ever evolve to reflect this ultimate radical vision of a peaceful three-nation spiritual alliance? It's a breathtaking thought to leave you with today. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the blueprint and the vision of Isaiah 19.